Do you really need to buy title insurance? Hey, this is Brad from probatehouseguy.com. So I'm a real estate investor. I specialize in the world of probate and inheritance properties. I have a very unique way that I get probate and inheritance deals all over the country that's a little different than what most people are used to. So if you're interested in learning more about that and maybe becoming one of our partners throughout the country, go to probatehouseguy.com to learn more. All right, so let's talk about title insurance. I have spoken to some people who love to brag about how title insurance is a ripoff and they don't want to buy title insurance. And I think they're missing the point of why we buy insurance to begin with. You have insurance on your house, on your car, maybe on your life, and your insurance is there for those unexpected scenarios that you're not prepared for. And that's the whole premise behind title insurance, right? Your title company or your closing attorney, depending on what state you're in, could do all of the due diligence and do all the things right, and you could still end up with some unforeseen title issue. And that's where the title insurance comes into play and will cover you and cover legal expenses and that sort of thing. And I wanted to talk about this video because I had a title claim in 2020 on a deal that we did everything right. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so in that particular deal, this was a pre-foreclosure. The lady was in foreclosure. She was in default. And, she decided to sell us the house. She needed to move to another state, and she really needed to sell the house. She didn't even make much money on the deal. I think she walked away from the closing table with like $3,000 or $4,000. Like, it wasn't a ton of money. And we came to an agreement on the offer, and we scheduled a closing, and we requested a payoff from the foreclosure attorney who was handling the foreclosure for the lender. They gave us a payoff amount, and they gave us wiring instructions on where to send the payoff, and they said that payoff was good for the next 48 hours. Well, we closed the very next day. So the very next day, we closed. My closing attorney wired the money to where they said to wire it to, wired the exact amount, and there were no typos, no nothing. We did exactly what they asked because we verified that after the fact. Okay, 30 days later, after the transaction had closed, my attorney got a wire back into his account from this lender. They rejected the money. And mind you, this lender, or the servicing company, was a very big and very well-known servicing company. I'm not going to mention the name in this video, but they are a very well-known servicing company. They rejected the money and sent it back. And then what they did is they started hounding after the seller that she was still in default. She did everything she was supposed to. We closed. I got title insurance on the thing. We wired the money. We sent it within 24 hours, even though we had a 48-hour payoff. We sent the exact amount to who they said to send it to. We did everything right. We checked all the boxes. There were no other outstanding liens, no other title issues, da-da-da-da. Because this happened during COVID, then we couldn't get anyone on the phone at the servicing company because they were all working from home, not in the office or whatever. We called and 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 we couldn't get anybody on the phone. I called, my attorney called, like my assistant called. We had 4 or 5 people on the phones at once trying to get through to somebody. No one could get anyone on the phone to validate what the heck was going on. So finally, my attorney looked up in the state bar website and found the attorney that represented that firm for that particular state and reached out to that attorney and said, hey, here's what's going on. How do we get to the bottom of this? Fortunately, she helped us out and got us to the right people. And we were trying to send the money back because we did what we were supposed to. We wired the money. Well, guess what? The servicing company came back and said, they said, well, you owe us more money now because there's more interest and penalties. And we said, no, we don't. Like, we sent you the money where you said to send it to within 24 hours, and you gave us a 48-hour payoff. We gave you what you asked for. You can't come back and ask for more money now. So then that ensued a legal fight. And so we decided to file a title claim with it, and it was with Fidelity National Title, was a title company. We filed a title claim and said, you guys got to figure this out. So then over the next course of the next few months, back and forth, their attorneys, they hired money, back and forth, fighting. This case drew out for 2 years in court between these two companies. Because I bought title insurance, I didn't have to pay a penny in attorney's fees to represent and fight this case out in court. Also, because I had title insurance, I needed to sell this property. And when it came time to sell this property, fortunately, because I had title insurance, they agreed to indemnify me, and they issued a letter of indemnification, and they allowed me to sell that property even though there was a pending title claim. If you didn't have title insurance on this, more than likely, because this property was involved in a case, there's probably going to be a lis pendens attached to the property. And that means that you can't sell that property. You can't sell it. You could do like a quick claim deed under the table or whatever, but you're stuck. So I could have been stuck for 2 years and never been able to sell that property. Also, I could have been on the line for who knows how much in attorney's fees. They fought this out in court for 2 years, finally settled it out 2 years later. It was crazy. And I felt so bad for the seller that we dealt with because she kept getting foreclosure notices on a property that she'd already sold. And it wasn't fair to her. So she got stuck in the middle of this and drugged through the mud. And then to add insult to injury, then the servicing company decided to name her in the lawsuit and require her to obtain legal counsel. She couldn't afford that. That's craziness, right? So this is why we have title insurance to cover these sort of things. Ultimately, that ended up not happening and they got all that sorted out, right? But if you're buying a property, title insurance is a drop in the bucket. Yeah, is your title company maybe making a little bit of a cut on that? Yeah, they are. They're making a few $100. But at the end of the day, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what that title claim might cost you. I've had friends who have done everything right on the title research, and all of a sudden, some unknown heir from 2 or 3 years ago comes out of the woodwork and says, you owe me 15 grand because of, this probate wasn't done right, 2 years ago, whatever it was. It happened to a friend of mine, and his lender, who was a friend of ours, basically said, I'm going to have to foreclose on you to wipe this out because I need my money back. And fortunately, my friend had enough margin in the deal where he was able to work out a deal with this long lost heir, whether their claim was legitimate or not, who knows? But he had to pay them off $15,000 in order to sell this property. And they finally agreed to sign a quitclaim deed and quitclaim their rights and agreed. And in that case, the closing attorney who did the transaction, and that closing attorney has actually since been disbarred and also lost their ability to issue title insurance because that wasn't their only screw up. They didn't pay enough attention to that file. And my buddy who bought title insurance in that case still had to pay some money out of pocket to deal with it. So it doesn't cover all scenarios, but in many scenarios, it's worth the money, guys. Just pay a few $100 or whatever it is for the title insurance, because you never know, especially if you have a lender involved in this transaction, you have a private lender, you should be protecting your lenders and making sure that you're paying for a title insurance policy for them too. Because the worst thing you want to do is have your lender get burned for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of their hard-earned money. And then you're like, sorry, do the right thing. Buy title insurance. And I'm not saying this for the title insurance companies. I'm not here to tell you what to do and what not to do. But in my opinion, in my experience, it's a drop in the bucket. It's there to protect you for those instances where some unknown thing happens. Easier to sleep at night, right? So I hope this video helps you out. I'm Brad with ProbateHouseGuy.com. Thanks for checking out this video. We've got a whole lot more videos on the channel, and we've got a great new podcast we've launched with some cool guests and some great content. So I hope you guys enjoy it all. I hope it helps you out. And again, if you want to learn more about working with us at Probate House Guy, just go to ProbateHouseGuy.com to learn more. So thanks again. Have a great day. Bye-bye.